This video explains how most of our thinking and behaviour is automatic and provides an overview of the remaining videos. What is high performance thinking? Well, high performance thinking is thinking that leads to high performance behaviours, which in turn leads to a high performance life. High performance thinking is thinking that enables and expands rather than thinking that disables or restricts. Given any situation, the high performance thinking should give you the greatest benefit, the greatest flexibility, the most optimal outcome, the most favourable long-term result for you and for all others involved in a particular situation. So that's the basics of high performance thinking. At the beginning of every chapter of my ebook, I start off with a quote. And I think this quote, for me, encapsulates one of the fundamental principles of high performance thinking. So there's my friend Albert Einstein. He said, "The problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them." And there's a number of concepts to take away from that quote, but I'll just let it sit there at the moment and we'll come back to that quote. The problems we have cannot be solved at the same level of thinking with which we created them. So where does our thinking come from, and what does Einstein mean by creating problems with our own level of thinking? Okay, a little bit of a history lesson. So where does our thinking come from? All our life is an educational process, and the education is more obvious in the sort of the younger years, 5 through to 25, but the moment we're born, through our whole life, we're learning something. So from 0 to 5, we learn what I've classed as survival skills. Survival skills being the skills necessary to exist as a human being in society. So we learn to walk, we learn to talk, we learn to think, we learn to be cute, we learn to be able to navigate around the room without bumping into furniture. We learn how to feed ourselves, how to eat, we can go to the bathroom, and by the time you're 5, you can exist pretty well in the world. And there are certain places in the world at the moment where a 5-year-old is expected to act and behave not too dissimilarly from an adult. And if you think about it, all of that learning and education, all of that happens quite informally. From 5 to 18, roughly, these are approximate ages, but approximately from 5 to 18, we enter formal education. We go to school. We do, here in Australia, we class it as primary school and secondary school or high school, and we do our formal education. Now, certainly in this country, and I would argue that most first world Western civilizations, education is designed to help a person enter economic life once they become an adult. And that thought that the purpose of education is to help people enter economic life, in other words, become useful members of society, useful, productive members of society, that underlying purpose is actually written into the Australian curriculum document. There's an overlying curriculum document that the federal government has put together, and it says that that's the purpose of education, is to have people enter economic life. So it's not about thinking, and it's not about self-actualization, and it's not about being the best you can be. It's about knowing enough to be productive and to be useful. That's what formal education is currently about. Once we leave formal education, once we leave school, from 18 to 25, we then go into a time where we learn specialist skills specifically to enter economic life, to become productive. So we can go to college or university or a trade school. You might take on a traineeship or a cadetship or an apprenticeship. It could well be that you go straight into some sort of labouring work But even as a labourer, you'd end up as a junior office worker or a sales assistant, and you're basically learning the skill set from 18 to 25. And a lot of people go to college or uni, technical college or a trade college or a university, and they're learning the skills that they will utilise for the remainder of their life to earn their living, to make their money, to be able to survive. So we learn specialist skills. We become electricians and plumbers and lawyers and solicitors and doctors and podiatrists and bricklayers and shop assistants and a million other occupations that I can't even think of at the moment. And that happens early in their life. Now, a lot of people come out of that process around about 25. For most people, that process is complete. Now, for some, like if you want to become an eye surgeon, you might still have another 5 or more years of study ahead of you. If you're certain occupations have a much longer apprenticeship, as it were, before you pop out as a mature disciple of that occupation. But round about the age 25 or maybe 30 or maybe 22, or around about there somewhere, we end up completing our career training, as it were. And what we do is go into, well, honestly, for a lot of people, that's it. For a lot of people, for many people, they've stopped learning. They don't learn anymore. Certainly not formally. They may learn informally, but for a lot of people, there's no more formal learning. There's no more college or uni or any sort of school. Now, for a high proportion of people, they do go on to do some sort of specialist training. And that could be personal or professional. So some people, if you're a university type person, you might end up going and doing a master's or another degree or a certificate in something. A lot of tradespeople, once they've learnt their trade, they'll go and learn some management skills or some business skills or some communication skills, or they may need to refresh or retrain in their particular trade. And some people, the training that they do, the skill set that they learn after the age of 25 may not be vocationally related at all. It might be just something personal. They could learn, they may go and learn a sport or a hobby. They may learn how to sew or how to do bookbinding or how to play golf or how to do a triathlon. And there's, I'm in Toastmasters, and a lot of people that I know go to Toastmasters. Some of them are they're pretending to go to become better communicators at work, but I think some of them go just for something to do. The thing is across that whole spectrum from age 0 through to age 25 plus, at no time do we formally learn thinking skills. Most people are not put in a situation where logic and ethics and morality and critical thinking and problem solving and decision making are skills that they are specifically taught. I'm not saying no one learns these. I'm saying most people aren't specifically taught this skill set. And that's the problem. That's the problem, is we're taught to be productive members of society rather than being taught how to be the best us that we can be. To give you an example of that, for the last couple of years I've been teaching apprentices, been teaching the next generation of railway signalling people, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that strikes me is exam nervousness when the exams are being handed out, more so when the marked exams are being handed back, how nervous some of the students appear to be. And they're sitting on the edge of their seat, and I've actually seen some people hold their breath as I'm handing out the papers, and they're worried about their mark. They're worried about did they pass or not. Now, I know there are some people that will always worry, even if they absolutely know the material and there's no chance that they'll ever fail. They still get very nervous. Just the whole exam process makes them nervous, and that's fine. And those people, I think, are in the minority. Many of my students that get nervous about their exam mark are actually very bright, intelligent young people and shouldn't have had that worry or their nervousness. The problem is that they didn't study, or they studied the absolute minimum. There are students that think that achieving anything more than 50% is a waste of their time. All they need to do is pass, and that's it. Do you ever think about the fact, if you ever go to the doctor, do you ever think about the fact that your doctor might have been one of those students that was happy with a 50% pass mark and didn't learn half the stuff that they needed to know? Can you imagine that? Now, this is low performance thinking. This is low performance behaviour. They're getting nervous, so it's obviously important to them. If they're getting nervous about it, it's important that they pass, yet it's not important enough to do an adequate amount of study to guarantee that they'll pass. They only do enough study, if any, to hopefully get them across the line, but they're not sure if they're going to, and that is low performance thinking. High performance thinking or high performance behaviour would be studying, in this case, studying enough to make sure that you feel confident in yourself that you can pass the exam. So that's an example of the difference between high performance and low performance thinking and behaviour. So here are some more examples of high performance and low performance thinking. So on the left hand side of the page in red is low performance examples of low performance thinking. On the right hand side of the page in green are examples of high performance thinking. So let's just go through them quickly. Holding on to negative emotion versus appropriate emotions. Now, I haven't got the time to cover it here. I cover this in the workshop, but let me say that emotions, all emotions, what we class as the positive emotions, love, happiness, joy, etc., and the negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, and guilt, I believe that they're all important and they're all there for a purpose. Even the negative emotions are important and we're meant to experience them. The problem is that people don't know how to manage their emotions, and so they may have a negative emotion about some event, and then they hold on to that emotion, which is not meant to be how it works. Holding on to a negative emotion, and I've seen people angry about things that happened 20, 30 and 40 years ago, a lifetime ago, and they're still angry about it. Holding on to negative emotions is low performance thinking. It's low performance behaviour. It is doing you no good to hold on to an emotion for something that is long gone. There are strategies and techniques that you can learn that will allow you to use that emotion to move yourself from medium or low performance behaviour to high performance behaviour, and that would be the appropriate use of emotions. So another example is frustration. Remaining frustrated about a situation is low performance thinking. Learning how to be content about a situation is much higher performance thinking. Holding on to a grudge is not good. It's not good for you. Holding on to grudges is proved to be medically bad for your own health, whereas forgiving, and this is where a lot of people make the mistake, forgiving is not about the other person. The other person really doesn't make any difference whether you hold a grudge or you forgive the other person, but holding a grudge is like an acid inside you, where forgiving is a release. Forgiving is about you, not about the other person. So forgiving is high performance thinking. Holding a grudge, low performance thinking. Giving up versus persisting. And I'm being very, very generalised here in my examples, because there are times when stopping, giving up, is exactly the right thing to do, and there are times when persisting is the wrong thing to do. But in general, giving up is low performance thinking and persisting is high performance thinking. And remember that all of these thoughts lead to behaviours. Persecuting someone, obviously low performance thinking. Enabling, helping someone to be better, that is high performance thinking. Avoiding risk versus controlling risk. Avoiding risk is if it stops you from doing what you want to do, is low performance thinking. I'm not saying that you should be frivolous in terms of your exposure to risk. I'm saying that you should manage or control risk and accept that certain things have an acceptable limit of risk, and not avoid risk but control it, which is enables you to do the things you want to do. That's high performance behaviour. Treating yourself as a victim of circumstance, is low performance behaviour, as opposed to using situations that occur to you to help you control your destiny, which is much more high performance thinking. So there's some examples of low and high performance thinking. High performance thinking gives you high performance results. That's the aim here. And specifically, as I said earlier, how you apply high performance thinking is up to you. What area of your life you apply it is up to you. So if you want to earn more money or have better relationships or just generally be happier, some people may want to feel more respected or be more respected in terms of their career and in terms of taking on a position of respect, maybe a career move. Basically having superior results in everything you do. Well, that's what high performance thinking is about. So here's a man contemplating Einstein, and remember that we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that we used when we created them. Success means evolution. It means moving up to a new higher level of behaviour and a higher level of thinking. And as you go through life, just as you look at this image here on the screen, just realise that the stuff of life is still going to happen around you. There are still going to be good days and bad days. You're still going to have challenges. There are still going to be times when you just want to lock yourself in your room and scream. I'm not professing a utopian life. I'm not saying that you should look at the world through rose-coloured glasses. I'm not talking about perpetual positive thinking and being in some sort of euphoric bliss, oblivious to the realities of life. I'm talking about learning strategies that allow you to think in ways that create higher levels of results and greater performance and greater success, being able to deal better with the everyday fluctuations of life. I'm not talking about avoiding them. The next video explains how most of our thinking and behaviour is automatic, and provides an overview of the remaining videos.